Now to another big political story this past week. Senator John Cornyn has launched his re-election campaign nearly 1 year before the primary, with the potential for Attorney General Ken Paxton challenging him in the GOP primary. Cornyn's campaign video emphasizes his support for President Trump.
In President Trump's first term, he made America great.
Senator Cornyn says he helped pass the president's agenda the first term and will do so again now.
And we're especially grateful to your wonderful senators, John Cornyn and Ted Cruz.
Now I'm running for re-election and asking for your support so President Trump and I can pick up where we left off.
After Cornyn released this video, the Attorney General fired off this post on X saying, quote, "You've constantly turned your back on Texans and President Trump, including trying to stop his campaign in 2024 and saying his time has passed him by." The Dallas Morning News reports former Democratic Congressman Colin Allred from Dallas is now seriously considering running against Cornyn. Allred lost to Senator Ted Cruz in November by 9 points. Responding to a potential Allred campaign, Cornyn posted this on X, quote, "Come and take it, Colin." Allred fired back saying, quote, "Good luck with your primary, John." Conservative political consultant Matt Makoviak tells why Cornyn is launching his re-election bid so early.
It's happening now because these Senate seats are valuable. And I think in Attorney General Paxton's view, he thinks Senator Cornyn is vulnerable to a primary. I think Senator Cornyn recognizes that the only way to run for re-election is to run scared. You're either unopposed or you're scared. And there's a reason he's never been defeated in any election he's ever run in, and he's always had primary challenges. I do think
had a primary challenge like Ken Paxton, right?
No, that's right.
If that happens, then you're going to see a dynamic back in like what we saw in 2010 when then Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison challenged Governor Rick Perry in a primary.
That's right. And I didn't work on Senator Hutchison's governor campaign. I was her press secretary in the U.S. Senate right before that, before she announced she was running for governor. So I'm quite familiar with that election, that dynamic. And you're right that there might be a somewhat similar dynamic. I think part of what's different is that Cornyn's voting record is 92% with Trump. And so it's probably not a perfect analogy. But you're right. I mean, if Paxton were to challenge Cornyn, it would be the most serious primary he's ever faced, period, full stop. I do think Paxton has a couple hurdles. The first is what is Trump going to do? Is President Trump going to endorse Paxton? Is he going to endorse Cornyn? Is he not going to endorse at all? Those are the three choices, and I suspect he won't make a decision until later this year, if he makes a decision at all. Two is sometimes people who run for state office don't understand how hard it is to raise money at the federal level. You have hard caps on individual contributions. I believe the cap is $3,500 this cycle, which may sound like a lot, but I assure you, when you need to go raise $20, $30, $40, $50 million for a competitive two-way primary, you're going to have thousands of people max out in addition to small dollar contributors in a significant level. Whether Attorney General Paxton can do that or not, I think is a huge question. Senator Cornyn definitely can do that. Senator Cornyn is going to have all the money he needs, period, full stop. It wouldn't surprise me if Attorney General Paxton announces an exploratory committee soon, which would allow him to raise money, travel, hire staff, do polling, perhaps solicit some endorsements from some activists.
His video that he put out launching his re-election bid is very Trump-centric.
Sure. Yeah, look, President Trump is not just the strongest endorsement in the Republican Party today. He's probably the strongest endorsement in the Republican Party in the modern era. I mean, when you just look at what his endorsement does, particularly in Republican primary, it is the most powerful force in politics today, period. And so, Cornyn, I think, has a case to make. He has a story to tell.
When then candidate President Trump got into the race, Senator Cornyn said, it may be time for somebody else. And so how does he get through all that?
Yeah, this is all going to get litigated, in the race. And if Paxton doesn't challenge Cornyn, someone else will. There's been Congressman Wesley Hunt from Houston's been making some noise. There's some other potential candidates, that will probably look at it. As it relates to Cornyn's record, his past statements, he's going to have to, defend and explain a lot of that. And he's already started. He went on activist Michael Quinn Sullivan's podcast this week and talked about some of this. My memory is that he endorsed President Trump the night of the New Hampshire primary.
We also spoke with Democratic political consultant Matt Engel, who said the current Republican Party has passed Cornyn by.
I think John Cornyn is a dead senator walking. I don't think he can get the Republican nomination the way the Republican Party is made up in Texas now. John Cornyn has a record of pretty much a normal conservative Republican. That doesn't work now. It's going to get him beat. Ken Paxton really reflects the Texas Republican Party now, and that it's corrupt, it's sold out to elites, and it's anti-family. John Cornyn's problem is that he's got a record that is not reflected at all in the current Republican Party. The type of Republican that John Cornyn has been, going back to Kay Bailey Hutchison or people like that, just the notion of that is nostalgia. That Republican Party is dead. Republicans now equal Trump. Trump equals power and corruption. And John Cornyn just can't match Ken Paxton on that record.
And so who would Democrats rather run against? Would they rather run against Senator Cornyn or Ken Paxton? Well,
if for some reason that Cornyn's able to get the nomination, he will have surrendered every shred of dignity that he has. And so he'll be vulnerable to a Republican at that point. But certainly, if you're asking me now, I'd rather that we run against somebody who actually reflects the values or the broken values of the Republican Party, and that would be Ken Paxton.
How would you said before that Senator Cornyn would surrender any shred of dignity that he had? What do you mean by that?
Well, by basically bending the knee and kissing Trump's ring, he really is abandoning what had traditionally been seen as the type of position that Texas leaders take.
Which Democrats do you see running for Senate this seat?
Well, there's any number of Democrats that could run. I don't know if they will. I don't think we'll really know until after the legislative session has ended. But it wouldn't surprise me if Colin Allred takes another look at it. Roland Gutierrez could also take a look at it. I know that a lot of people have talked up, and I'm very impressed, have been since the day he got elected. Nathan Johnson is a state senator out of Dallas. And then also James Tallarico, very talented young state rep out of Austin. All of them, I think, could run a credible race, and there's others too. I don't think with the Democratic Party, we're going to have a problem coming up with a person qualified to run and qualified to serve. The real challenge for Democrats is coming up with the resources that it takes in order to build the organization and to promote our candidate. That's been our real handicap.
Lots of moving parts that may hinge on whether Paxton challenges Cornyn.